Our next speaker is Representative Helen Chenoweth-Hage from Idaho. After Mrs. Hage speaks, then we can have questions to the two members of the House. Mrs. Hage?
It's a privilege and a pleasure to join Dr. Paul today here at this press conference on this most important issue. In 1943, my Uncle Merlin raised his right hand and swore the following oath. He said, "I, Merlin Ward, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God." Well, 1 year later, my uncle gave his life to keep that oath, and while it grieved us terribly, and does to this day, we knew that his sacrifice had real meaning. We knew that he had given his life so that we, his family, and his countrymen would be free. Well, today's servicemen swear exactly the same oath. And lately, many of them have found themselves in a terrible catch-22. They are sworn to obey officers whose orders betray their oaths. They are ordered to obey foreign officers whose primary objective is not to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. It's been suggested that in order to avoid this contradiction, today's military oath would have to read something like this. "I do solemnly swear to offer my life and my liberty, to spend months apart from my family, missing anniversaries and birthdays and even the births of my children, in defense of globalism and the worldview put forward by the United States. I promise to obey unquestioningly the orders of whomever the members of the United Nations have voted to command me. I promise to stop believing America is the best nation on earth and worth dying for." This is not the path America should take. This is not the path we want to lead our military down. This is not the way to protect and defend the best we can those people those military men and women who swear the oath to protect and defend us. America is a nation so very special that free men and women volunteer their lives to defend it, and they always have. We must honor their sacrifice by keeping their promise, and we must keep their families free. I have introduced a bill entitled the Soldiers Protection Act, H.R. 4669, actually the Citizen Soldier Protection Act. This bill would protect the very patriotism and love of liberty that has led men and women over the centuries to give their lives. It would prohibit the involuntary assignment of United States Forest servicemen to foreign commands. It also would prohibit our armed forces from ordering servicemen to wear insignia or rank other than that of the United States of America. This very basic measure ensures that American servicemen remain American under American command, dedicated to the principles of American freedom, American democracy, offering their lives to ensure liberty and justice for their children and their grandchildren. That's our servicemen. This is the principle my Uncle Merlin died for, and it is a principle I have served this Congress for the last 6 years. It is the only principle any American should ever be asked to make the ultimate sacrifice for. This bill, of course, was inspired and prompted by the Michael New issue, where this very dedicated young man was asked to wear a UN patch above the American flag, and he refused to do so. And so the Citizens Soldier Protection Act has been dropped, and we will be working in the Congress to see its completion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Hage. Any questions for Dr. Paul or Mrs. Hage?
Mrs. Hage, The quick question is, during the Second World War, American troops were put under foreign command, most notably under Field Marshal Sir Bernard Montgomery. How would this bill that you're currently proposing, would that be in any change?
That happened when we joined and formed the Allied forces. But we must prevent what happened in Mogadishu and various other places where our soldiers were placed under command of people they couldn't even understand. Orders were mixed up. Secretary Aspen was exceedingly concerned about this. And the fact is that during World War II, Americans served willingly in the Allied forces under the command of generals that they could understand. And never should a serviceman be asked ever to place a UN patch on his uniform above the American flag. Never. I also want to remind you of the Sovereignty Protection Act that has passed the House 3 times, dealing with the issues of the international heritage sites as well as the biodiversity sites. Although this has been a big issue to me, and I will be leaving the Congress after this particular year, I surely do hope, and I leave it to Dr. Paul to run that through next year, and we certainly do look for a hero in the Senate to run it through and put it on the next president's desk. Thank you.
Dr. Paul, that would be my next question, which is, while I understand both of you are House members, my question would be, what support do you have from the Senate, since the Senate is involved with handling foreign treaties?
I do not have any specific numbers or people who have introduced the same type of legislation over the Senate. I would say that our support there is much weaker than in the House. But, of course, the House is more closely aligned with the people. They're closer to the people, and they're reflecting more of the people's views. But you're obviously correct that for a bill like mine, 1146, which would get us out of the United Nations, you'd have to have co-sponsors and a lot of support in the Senate for that to occur. And although I think our support is growing, and I think if you ask the American people, the large majority would agree with us that we certainly shouldn't have troops serving under UN command and taking our dictates from an international government. The majority probably are not with us in just flat out getting out of the UN. But I would say that, no, time will tell. And I think our momentum compared to, we've never had a vote on getting out of the UN before. A lot of people have talked about it. But we've had a couple votes that essentially said, just get us out. It's not in our best interest. And yes, we get less than 100 votes. But that's major progress compared to the last 40 or 50 years of just putting up with it and complacently going along with one world government. So I think the bill, the 1146, and the efforts of Helen Chenoweth will continue. And I think it will build. I think there's going to be momentum. There is momentum. And I think what we're doing here today shows it.
I have written my senator from Nebraska, Senator Hagel, asking him to draw up a Senate bill similar to 1146, and he wrote back and said he supports the United Nations.
Yes, he's just a little slow behind, not quite up with the people yet.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. Bill Gibson from Pennsylvania. I was going to ask about the Bricker Amendment. When you study the history of the Bricker Amendment, I wondered if that has any bearing on this.
Well, Helen has a bill dealing with the Bricker Amendment. She'll take care of that one.
Well, I brought the Bricker Amendment back out and dusted it off and ran it out again. And yes, it would have a direct impact anytime anyone's constitutional rights are abridged under the Bricker Amendment. The Bricker Amendment simply states the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, rising above treaties and executive orders and executive agreements.
You know if it's true that passed the Senate committee by a vote of 2-1 before it was vetoed by President Eisenhower, I think? Well, somebody in the White House vetoed it back about 40 years ago.
Well, I think it lost on the floor by just one vote. a supermajority vote, which was very sad.
Dr. Paul, Mrs. Chenoweth, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.